Hey everybody, hope you're good. This is your brother David. Today I thought I would talk to you about an interesting topic. Just in case you're interested. I'll talk about a topic of that's kind of being discussed in Christian circles, especially. Sometimes people talk about that. Is it something one should do, one should not do, and all that. And I'll just tell you I uh, why I do not tithe. In other words, why I do tithe, and yeah, I mean, you can put your comments in the comment section. Let me know your perspective on it. This is just my perspective, and well, anyway, I hope you enjoy the topic. So yeah, we're talking about tithing, right? So some churches or some men of God ministries talk about tithing. Some people say it's something you have to do, and a lot of people kind of ask themselves, is it something really we have to do, or is it something we shouldn't do? Is it mandatory to do it, to tithe? Do we go to hell if we don't tithe and all that? And it's interesting to see a different perspective. But the reason why I tithe is let me just give you a little bit of background about me. So I grew up in a home or in a house where my dad was a pastor. From my young age, and he's been in ministry for many years. All right, and so we were being told as we were growing up that tithing is a good thing, offering and tithings, and so we were doing it. As a kid, I grew up tithing, and then as I was growing up, I started hearing this conversation. Is this really something that we should do? Is it mandatory or not? So I'm gonna say I have never seen the scripture that says if you do not tithe, you will go to hell, or if you do not tithe, you will this and you will that. And I haven't seen that. Okay, and so, however, what I've seen is scriptures talking about the benefits of giving in general, and there are scriptures about tithing where people were blessed and then they tithe, or vice versa, and or people tithe and then they were blessed, and so forth. And so for me, I didn't really have a position. I know I never had a problem with tithing, but at some point I went through a few things that made me rethink and made me let me just tell you about this thing. So for example, I went to university in South Africa. Okay, I went to a university called Wits University, Witwatersrand, for those who are familiar with it. And so when I finished my studies, my graduate degree, my undergrad, I got a job because I had a scholarship, and the scholarship was required me. Well, for the U.S. based folks, it may not be referred to as a scholarship, but anyway, it was an arrangement where your studies are paid, but when you're done, you gotta go work for this organization. Okay, you gotta work for them for a certain number of years. So I did that. So I at the end of my studies, I was living in Johannesburg, and I was told that they had an opening for me, but it was in a different city. It was in Cape Town. And so for me, I was like, Cape Town, that's an opportunity to move away from my parents. I was a young guy, and I was like, sign me up, I'm going. But then I realized I was broke. Okay, I was fresh out of college, and I just didn't have enough money to sustain myself for at least a month living in a different city. And so I thought, what am I going to do? And I started trying to, work and sell some of my stuff, get some money, and I was just not getting the money that I needed. Okay, I wasn't getting close to what I needed for a month. Okay, I didn't have enough to sustain myself for a month. And so that was a problem I had, right? And then one day I remember we went to church for prayer. It was all-night prayer. For those who've been to Africa, who've been in African churches, sometimes there are churches where you kind of have an all-night prayer. All right, you come in on Friday Eve, you pray right through like 6 a.m. or so on Sunday, and so no, not on Sunday, on Saturday. And so I was at one of those sessions. I went to pray, and then I remember during the prayer, the lead kind of pastor, or the lead the person that was leading the prayer goes, at some point he says, all right, now we will pray for our needs. You pray for your own needs and just ask the Lord to answer, to address your need. And so at the time, I had a little kind of studio set up at the back of my house, of my parents' house. All right, I had a little setup over there, and I had some instruments I was trying to sell. I thought, if I can sell this, I can make enough money to sustain myself for a month. But I couldn't get a buyer. I told people around me I was trying to sell, it wasn't going. And so that night I prayed. I said, okay, God, I need money to sustain myself for a month when I move to when I go to Cape Town. And I prayed and I said, oh, by the way, if I had not been giving my tithe all these years, Lord, I would have the money that I need. Okay, had I stopped giving my tithe a while ago, I would have enough money to just move. And so I've been giving you the tithe, and I need you to come through for me. That was my prayer. And so we prayed. We went for the prayer started on Friday night, and on Saturday morning, we were done, and I just walked out the church. I was in the just outside the main church doors, and I was waiting for my ride to go back home, and then my phone rings, and then somebody goes, it's a guy that I know. He says, hey, you know what? 6 a.m. This is 6 a.m. in the morning. He says, hey, do you still have that sound module that you were trying to sell? I'm like, yeah. He says, well, how much do you want for it? Because I want to buy it. I just told him the number. I gave him a number, and that was what I needed to sustain myself for a month. He says, done. I'm coming over today, getting it, just prep it for me. Came over, I got the money, he got the stuff, and I moved on. I was like, wait a minute. Did God just do that? I was like, okay, well, interesting. Fast forward. So I go to Cape Town, and I lived there, worked there for a year, 2 years or something, couple of years. And then at some point, I'm like, it was probably about 2 years or so. And I'm like, I'm still young. I'm in this city, I'm working, and I've got a bit of time to myself. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should use the time that I have to study further, before I get, too busy with life and all that. Let me study if I can, all right? Only one little problem, I didn't have money. So I started working. I had this new job, and I was paying my tithe and doing all these things. But I had money, but not enough to kind of to pay for this for postgrad or something like that. And so now one Sunday morning, I pray, and I'm like, okay, God, I need to. I'd like to study. I really love music at the time, and so I was like, okay, God, I can do music right now. Just go into use my free time to just write songs and do more music and all, or I can just focus on studying, doing a postgrad. And so I said, well, Lord, if you Sunday morning before going to church, I said, Lord, if you rather have me do my postgrad, please give me the money, all right? Because I need that. And then I said again, same thing. I said, I realized that I've been working and giving my tithe, and if I had not been giving my tithe, all that I need to pay for these studies. So anyway, Lord, you do what you want to do. If you want me to study, let me have the money. So Sunday morning, and I go to church, and I come back. And by the way, I got married in the meantime. Okay, I got married, and so I was with my wife, and did the prayer, and we go to church, and when we come back, get home, I just because we had a mailbox, right? We were renting an apartment somewhere in Cape Town, and we had a mailbox at the entrance of the apartment, just next to the door. And when I got home, before getting into the house, I'm like, okay, let me check the mail. And I opened the mail, and in the mail, there's a letter. The letter says, "Dear prospective student, if you want to study and you don't have enough money and you want to continue your studies and you need some money, we can finance you up to," and they put some amount on there and say, all you have to do is just apply here and we will finance your studies. So I study, I filled in the form, and I got the money that I needed to go ahead and study. Okay, granted, it was a scholarship type thing, or I'd have to repay, but the fact is, I got the cash, and I went on and I studied, and again, God did it. I mean, I saw it. I'm like, I spoke about tithes to the Lord, and He came through, okay, in an amazing way. And so this thing of giving and tithing, when I went through those, I'm like, for me, I realized that, hey, I'm actually better off just tithing because God's got my back. That's me. I know. All right. And even moving forward, not just tithing, even offering. So I decided, I'm going to be living like this. I'm good with it, and that's why I tithe. I don't tithe because somebody said, if I don't tithe, if I do not tithe, I'll end up going to hell. Or somebody said, if I do not tithe, this and that, I will have no. I tithe because I've read a couple of scriptures in the Bible that encourages us to tithe, and I've been through things. These are just a few examples, but I've been through things that kind of made me realize that, you know what? I think tithing is the right thing to do. And even giving in general. The Bible says, give and it shall, and you will receive. And so I've been learning to give. I've learned that when you give, God may not give you exactly what, may not repay you in kind, but He can come through for you in different ways. Just an example of giving. So when I left South Africa, because I've now moved to the U.S., and I'm now living in the U.S. And when I left South Africa, I had equipment, right? I had a little music kind of studio at the house, and I was selling my stuff. I was like, do I sell? What do I do? And then there was this piece of equipment that for me was pretty dear to me. It was expensive, and I knew if I sold it, I would get quite a lot of money back by selling it. It would certainly be useful. It was my keyboard. I had a keyboard. It was a Korg, I think Triton TR, something like that. And I bought it brand new. I really loved it, and I was like, do I sell it? Do I take it with, or what do I do? Then I was like, you know what? Let me give it. Give it to God. Give it to the church, because I know that He's got my back. And so I called the church. What do I need to do? I got this thing that I want to give out. They send somebody at home to pick it up. They picked it up, left. So I left South Africa without a keyboard. Okay, and when I got to the U.S., within a week or two after landing in the U.S., one of my cousins hits me up. He calls me and he says, I got a keyboard for you. I want to give it to you. In fact, he gave me two keyboards when I arrived. He gave me this is a controller. For those of you into music, you know what it does. No sounds on it. It just controls your sound modules, computers, and all that. Yeah. So he gave it to me, and he also gave me a workstation. Okay, he gave it to me. I don't have it. I don't use it anymore, but I got it. Within 2 weeks, I'm getting into the U.S. Right. Fast forward, within a few months, at some point, I don't know if you can see that keyboard over there, the gray keyboard, right there. You may not be able to see it, but my wife offered it to me within a few months from getting to the U.S. All right, so I gave one, and within a few months, I got 3 keyboards. Right, and recently, I got this one. That's a I don't know if you know, it's a guitar. All right, pretty interesting instrument. I really like it. And so, again, the only reason why I'm talking about these things is just to kind of make a point. The point being that, as for me, I know that when God says, give, you shall receive, he means business. He does it. And I know that when he says, give you tithe, when the word of God encourages us to give our tithe, I know the Lord is behind his word and he gives us back. Okay, and again, the thing is, I gave you examples where God has given me back in kind, but he does not always give us back in kind. Sometimes you give money and you get back protection from an accident or something. You could end up with serious hospital bills or something, or you give money, or you give an item and you get something else. So God is not limited. He's got interesting ways of doing things. And so, yeah, that's why, I decided that I'm going to be giving. Now, the one question that people often have is they say, okay, so why should I give into this church? Or why should I give over there? Because I know, in fact, people say, I'm not giving because these guys are stealing our money. They're promising us to do ministry with it, but they're not. Okay? People promise us that, men of God come and say, give the tithe, and you give the tithe, and then they ended up buying these Rolls Royces and all these things, and people are like, so they don't want to give, and because of that, people are like, nah, we're not interested, we're not giving. Some people do that. Well, one thing that I've learned, and I give, and when I give, I don't think about I try not to think about what they're gonna do with the money, because my deal is with God. Okay, God knows people's heart. God knows what they do with what you give them. God knows if they're being honest or not. But God, he knows and he sees. And I know that he sees when I give. He sees my heart. He knows that in my mind, I'm giving to God. I'm giving for the ministry. Whether they go, and invest this and use it correctly or incorrectly, I've sold into God's work, because that's where my heart is and that's my intention. And I know that he rewards me. Every time I gave to the church, or every time I don't know what they did with the money, but that's not really my thing. God will take care of them. If they're righteous, he will reward them in how they use the money, and if they're not, he will judge and intervene in their life. But as for me, I know that he sees that I gave and he gave it back. So that is why I do not tithe. I'd rather just keep on tithing. And so let me know what you think about this topic. Put your notes in your comment. And by the way, if you got time, check out some of my music on my YouTube page, on my Facebook page. And if you like it, share it, talk to somebody about it. And if I do a concert or something, hey, come on and let's have some great time in the presence of the Lord. And let's enjoy ourselves, all right? Okay, I hope this was an interesting topic and you enjoyed it. God bless you. Bye.